give you an idea, as is our customer Afreximbank, we try to be innovative to address challenges across the continent and bring the opportunity closer to African companies. We have seen that, we've analyzed that there is a big infrastructure gap across the continent, close to $90 billion gap of investments for infrastructure projects, and it remains a big gap because we don't find so many international companies willing to cover this gap and do infrastructure projects. And that's why we thought of, it's either projects that go to international companies, and so foreign currency funds will be flowing outside of the continent, or there are projects that find no person able to cover, or any company able to take the risk and do it. So we thought of, why don't we capacitize and enable our African construction companies by financing means, by market information, by giving them the opportunity so that they can execute more projects across the continent to try and cover this infrastructure gap and give the capacity to indigenous African companies. And that's why we came up with this initiative, which we call EPC initiative, Engineer, Procure and Construct Financing Initiative, which is directed to African indigenous construction companies or companies that are in the infrastructure space. You will be surprised that there are so many African construction companies that have the track record, that have the expertise, that have the technology, that can do a lot of projects that are present in the continent. Of course, there will be still some projects that will need special technology or special capacity and will still have to cooperate with other international companies. But for the majority of the projects, they are indeed can be covered by local construction companies, especially construction companies in North Africa, which has the expertise and the track record in doing a lot of infrastructure projects. But the problem is the lack of market information. So many of those African construction companies don't have access to information about projects across the continent, or they don't have the financing means through local banks to be able to extend their operations across their borders and go to their African construction companies. And that's the main aim of this workshop. As we were advancing this workshop, we worked with so many African construction companies in Egypt in particular, and Morocco, in North Africa. We find also that there are still other obstacles beyond those obvious obstacles. Those obstacles have to do with some of those companies don't even have the knowledge of how to submit bids to other African construction companies. Some of the African governments require certain specifications or certain procedures to be followed for a company to be awarded a project. And of course also there are some technological aspects or logistical aspects that those companies need to be aware of in order to be able to execute those projects. So as we were helping those African construction companies to win and execute those projects, we found also other problems and other obstacles that we needed to address. And that's why we came up with all this program. We've done a research, a market study on the infrastructure gap in Africa. We've done a survey among a number of African governments on what requirements and specifications and items they need to see in the bids for contracts so that those projects can be awarded. And we've designed something that we have shared with many African construction companies to educate them and help them grow their footprint across Africa. And that's the main theme and the main aim of today's workshop. This is not another talk show, it's not another speech that we're doing, but rather we're trying to educate the audience on the opportunities present in Africa and the construction and the infrastructure space, how to win contracts across Africa. And you'll see a number of presentations and video recordings from our colleagues who have done this survey and this research to give an idea about that. And also you'll listen to some of our experts in the panel who are members of very strong construction companies across Africa, who has done a lot of projects, and they can talk about the opportunities, the challenges, what they have learned, and so on and so forth. So we would like this to be a very interactive workshop. Please challenge the speakers with your questions, with your requirements. Let it be an educational session, an interactive session, so that we can all come out of this session. We have changed something and we have pushed something forward to change the current market landscape.